been watching President Trump in his meeting with the Irish Prime Minister. The word was decimated. He said Iran's Navy's been decimated. Their radars have been decimated. He went on to say their leadership has been decimated. He specifically referred to an Israeli target that Israel took out. Israel took out Basij Commander Soleimani. He presided over the deadly crackdown. President Trump saying he believes it is far more than 32,000 Iranian protesters who were killed by that individual that Israel took out. He also addressed the major news this morning. The major news this morning was that the National Counterterrorism Center Director Joe Kent resigned. He said, after much reflection, I have decided to resign from my position. He worked for Tulsi Gabbard, and President Trump said, I always thought he was a nice guy, but I always thought he was weak on security. I did not know him well. It was a question the press asked repeatedly, and President Trump continued with that line. Well, hello, everyone. This is Outnumbered. On this St. Patrick's Day, I'm Kayleigh McEnany here with my co-host Harris Faulkner and Emily Compagno. Also joining us, Cheryl Casoni, Fox Business anchor and host of American Dream Home on Fox Business, and Steve Doocy, co-host of Fox and Friends. Emily, you and I were speaking about Joe Kent. He also, the other line President Trump used was he was someone who worked with us. He did not say Iran was a threat to the degree it should have been. We don't want those who don't see Iran as a threat working with us. Paraphrased a little there. That was the gist. Right.
So Joe Kent delivering his resignation as director of the U.S. Counterterrorism Center this morning, saying, I cannot in good conscience back this administration's war in Iran. He said, quote, Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation. It is clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. So it's important to note that not only did the president address it this morning, as you stated, but also his press secretary via X released a very lengthy statement that began like this. There are many false claims in this letter, but let me address one specifically, that Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation, she writes. As President Trump has clearly and explicitly stated, he had strong and compelling evidence that Iran was going to attack the United States first. Now, she also goes on to say, and I encourage everyone to go to her X account to read the full statement. She said the commander-in-chief determines what does and does not constitute a threat because he is the one constitutionally empowered to do so. And she writes, as someone who actually witnesses his decision-making process on a daily basis, the fact that the allegation that his decision was based on the influence of others, even foreign countries, is both insulting and laughable. Now, our own Aisha Hasni reporting that on background to a senior administration official says that Joe Kent was cut out of POTUS intelligence briefings months ago due to allegations of suspected leaks and that he has not been a part of any Iran planning discussions or briefings at all, which sort of posed the disconnect addressed earlier this morning by the administration, saying that he wasn't privy to the classified information that indeed underscores and proves provides the evidence that Iran was nuclear empowered or about to be. And final quick point that I've referenced Joe Kent's testimony on the Hill many times in 2025 of the 18,000 known terrorists that came through the southern border under the Biden administration's watch in the prior 4 years.
We are still dealing with today, and we will get to that in just a moment. Actually, you know, Harris, he's also sitting there with Ireland. It's a close ally of the United States, and he called out Europe, and he called them out domestically. And he said, if you don't deal with energy and immigration, there will be no more Europe.
Well, and it's interesting because he compared where they were in the beginning, and he said, you know, for me, and maybe that must have been behind the scenes, he said they support this, they understand from the beginning, but now that we're weeks into it, he said you're starting to see a little bit of difference. He didn't beat up on them too badly, though, because in the beginning, you'll recall, when the UK Prime Minister was not really coming along and saying, we back what you're doing, but we'll just do what we can defensively, he questioned the special relationship between the United States and the UK. We haven't heard him reiterate that. So, you know, maybe we've gone farther conceptually and maybe farther into the war physically, and that's changed things. But I will say this, when he talks about illegal immigration and just immigration in general in those European countries, and he says things like he did moments ago, you know, you keep up the way that you're doing it now and there won't be a Europe. If he said, you know, he breaks with certain European leaders based on their energy and their immigration policies. And so when you see that, he means it. And it also, I think, kind of drives home the point that he made early on in this conflict, too. He's going to remember who did and who did not help us.
Yeah, and Steve, he said repeatedly Iran could not have had a nuclear weapon. And his predecessors, his past four, have said that. He also stood up for the Fordow operation, which was, a big success. But he said they would have had a nuclear bomb had I not done that within 24 hours. So you see him putting the sense of imminency on these attacks.
Right, exactly. And I think that's one of the things that Donald Trump does better than any president we've seen in a while. And that is whatever's on his mind and whatever message he wants to get out there, he's going to go out and he's going to repeat it. And we heard him say regarding what Joe Kent had said, who said there was no imminent threat. He said there was an imminent threat. There was a threat. We also heard him talk about Europe, and he said, NATO really hasn't done enough. Well, what was he really saying? What he was really saying is NATO is not helping me escort ships through the Strait of Hormuz. And I need help. And you want gas to go down, you're going to have to help. One of the reasons he said China, I'm going to go see China in maybe 5 weeks. One of the reasons they should be escorting ships through is the fact that China gets so much more oil from those areas than the United States does. So essentially, he had some notes. It was a threat, and NATO's got to help us. And he hammered that home a couple of times.
And we heard him mention the Strait of Hormuz. To Steve's point, we know 94% of crude exports from Iran are processed on this island.
Yeah, there's a 95% shutdown right now, at least, unless you're a friendly nation to Iran. They're letting some ships through, in particular, if you're from Turkey. They're letting Turkey flag ships go through and Russian ships, a shocker. But as far as the Strait of Hormuz, what he did say was, especially with regards to our allies, I thought was interesting. He was asked by a reporter, have you had our allies give you any sense that they're going to help escort ships through the Strait? He said, guess what? We don't need them. We don't need too much help. We don't need any help, actually. In fact, we just put out a notice. I was over the last couple of weeks, all of our allies very much in favor of what we did. They thought it was important. If you think it's so important and you're a European ally and their energy infrastructure, obviously, and their markets really depend on that strait more than ours. Drill, baby, drill. I've talked about this on the couch before. If that's the case, bring in those minesweepers. I heard him at least 3 times say, bring in minesweeping technology and ships. When he says something to a camera, he knows who he's talking to, and he was talking to the Europeans.
And why wouldn't they?
It helps their energy infrastructure and their economy. It doesn't hurt ours. We are a net exporter of oil. Our nation. They're the problem, not us. They've got the trouble. Not us, at the end of the day.
He knows who he's talking to, including NATO. He said he's disappointed, and you're part of the reason for our deficits. All right.
Hey, everyone. I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.